Let's go. Ruby Marsh, thanks for joining me here today at Yellow Shelf. Ruby, you're the host of the True to You podcast, and I'm excited to have you on because I have been listening to your podcast since last year, and now is the right time to chat. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ruby, what can you tell us about your podcast? You have more than 160 episodes in your vault, incredible guests, incredible topics. What do we need to know about your podcast?
So True to You started back in 2019, and it started as a project because I was like, okay, I love having conversations with women. I love hearing their stories. And at the time, my coaching work was mainly focused on helping women make career transitions. And I thought there's all of these women around the world who have made these crazy transitions, gone from one career to another, which is the same as my story. And I thought, what better way to inspire more people to do the same and create, I guess, a career path that's true to them. So that's how the name came into it. And it started out like that. And then slowly over time, I actually started to get more small business owners, particularly creative business owners, come to me looking for business support. And so it evolved more into helping women in small business, helping particularly women with a creative streak, and however that came through in their business, whether they had a quote creative business as a designer or something like that, or they just simply exercise creativity in their marketing and sales and things like that. So it evolved more into that over time. And then last year, I kind of had this break, like I said, because I had some personal things go on. And it's the first time that I had had a break in years. So I'd been going from 2019, stacking up all of these episodes, and then I had a break. And it was the best thing I ever did because I came back with a new intention with the podcast. So the name's still the same. The name's never changed. And if anything, I'm going back to the roots of the podcast now and this idea of true to you, but in a sense of building a business that's true to you. So my intention now is to focus on women in business who are doing it their way, are doing it differently. And I like to say they're throwing out the blueprints, because I think for the last 10 to 15 years, if you've ever, anyone's listening that's built a business, you know that there's so much out there that you can learn around building a business, especially in the online marketing space. And I started to just notice everything got really repetitive, and a lot of people were tiring of some of that type of content. And I at the same time started to notice this army of women, particularly because my audience is mostly focused on women, although I do have a lot of great male listeners as well. So it's not exclusive to women by any means, but that they were building these businesses with their constraints in mind. So the fact that they have a family, or they want to have a family, or they're going through something, a season of their life, and realizing, okay, my business might need to look like this for a period, or you know what, these are really my strengths, and I've been following these blueprints telling me to do it this way, and actually this is where I'm strongest. And they've doubled down on that, and their business has grown, it's taken off, because they've kind of rejected the status quo of what we've been taught. So I want to open up the doorway for women to see that they can do it their way, and to trust that beautiful gut instinct that we have, and be able to say, okay, I'm doing it this way, and I'm using these strengths, and my marketing is going to look like this, because this is how I'm going to create something sustainable that I love to wake up to every single day. Well, that's the dream, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think what resonated for me about your work is that, you specifically, I know in many episodes you talk about, what's right for you at that point in your life. So I definitely, I think that's really important for women and for anyone who's creating a business to think about it. Ruby, do you want to tell us a bit about your career journey and your background, maybe? Because I think the inspiration is definitely at the core values of obviously who you are. But yeah, tell us a bit about your journey and maybe some background.
Yeah. So for first part of my career, my working life, I studied and trained to become an architect, and I was in the architecture and design world for 10 years. And around my 30th birthday, it's probably like one of those Saturn returns moments. I went, oh, hang on. I don't know if this is true to me. I don't know if this is fully aligned with my values. So I decided that I would eventually leave that career full time. And it took a couple of years for me to fully leave that world. And I actually went into retail, which is such a wild change from being in a corporate environment and quite a prestigious career and working with amazing clients, very, very wealthy clients. And I started working for Lululemon. And while I was with that company, I was obviously they're a company that's built on some amazing core values, an amazing mission. And they had this element of personal development. So they're a people first culture, and they certainly were when I was there. And that was certainly the foundation for the company. And so I was so attracted to it because I was like, this is where I'm meant to be. And I loved it, even though like retail was a big change for me. And I got introduced to all of these tools around coaching and training your team. And so I actually went into management, which is not something I thought at all, but I just started to really follow my gut instinct. And it led me to coaching, and then eventually led me to starting my own coaching work with women, helping them do what I had done, which was to make a career change or start a side hustle. And then, yeah, it eventually led to a full-time thing where I now work with my husband and we run a business coaching program. It's a community as well called Creator Club. And we have small service businesses from all around the world working with us. And yeah, it's incredibly rewarding, but certainly not where I thought I would have been 10
Yeah,
years ago.
wow.
It's
I love
amazing.
that. And tell us about the guests and the topics. I mean, like I said, there's 160 episodes and, podcasts evolve. And you mentioned going back to your roots. So yeah, like where do you get the inspiration for that? Like a network,
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say the word network, because finding podcast guests, you may very well know, or your guests have said to you as well, that it can be challenging. There's a lot of work that goes into podcasting behind the scenes. And so it can be a creative project, but also a bit of a labor of love. And I think the flow on effect from podcasting is incredible, though. I think it's amazing. But the way that I sort of think about the episodes now is I'm really going into finding my guests with that intention. And so that means I'm very curated. And I know that with podcasting, it's easy to look at how do I grow a massive podcast? Okay, well, I get these particular guests on because that's going to grow my reach. But I'm thinking about my audience, and I'm thinking the type of people that they connect with. And so I have a range of guests, from guests that are very well known in the design and creative spaces that are quite accomplished and established. And then sometimes I'll have local business owners as well. So I interviewed a couple of amazing creative women last week, and it was such a joy to sit down with them and give them that opportunity to recount their story as well. And I think that storytelling and telling your story is something that, as a founder of a business, can be really powerful to connect you with your clients or your customers. And so even just giving them that opportunity, I think they were kind of surprised by the experience and how rewarding it was for them to do that. So yeah.
Oh, brilliant. And finally, what would be the best way to connect with you? So if I'm watching Yellow Shelf and I'm curious about either your podcast or your Creator Club business of coaching,
Yep.
Yeah, I'll put it in our show reel. But what's the best way to connect with you, Ruby?
Yeah, so the best way to connect with me, I love Instagram. I'm often on there. I'm also on LinkedIn as well. And I'm under my name, Ruby K Marsh on Instagram and Ruby Marsh on LinkedIn. So because I guess I have that professional service background, I still have my foot in those communities. We spoke about Gen Collective before, and network is really networking and offline and other communities that I'm in has been such a powerful way to find great guests and connect with people like yourself. So I think word of mouth sometimes travels better than you would expect. So yeah, the digital channels, LinkedIn, Instagram, and then the show's called True to You, and you can find it on iTunes and Spotify. So yeah, look
Yeah,
out for
awesome.
me.
Well, I'll put those in the notes. Ruby, thank you so much for joining us today. Have you ever thought about writing a book, Ruby?
I have had it in the back of my mind, and my husband's written a book, and he's
Oh,
on his second book at the moment, second business book. So he's kind of taking charge with that. But yes, as a creative, I definitely
yeah.
my love is definitely the podcasting and
Yes.
these conversations, but I think there could be a way even to transcribe
Yeah.
podcast episodes maybe into a book or something like
Absolutely.
that. Who knows? You've got
Well,
so many options
that
there.
was a cheeky ask from me because Yellow Shelf, we also feature book authors, but maybe I need to talk to your husband and feature him on
Yeah,
Yellow Shelf too.
yeah.
So, Ruby, thanks so much for joining us today. And I couldn't highly recommend people tune in to your podcast and yeah, leave some comments.
Thank you, Joe.
Cheers.